Hey man, what's going on?
Yo dude. Did you hear EA won't be the only company making Star Wars games anymore?
Hmm. Does that mean no more microtransactions? No more useless cosmetics that you can't earn in game? No more feeling like I'm being kicked in the nuts by a giant gaming developer? And most importantly, I know Lucasfilm wouldn't pick a company that has no original ideas. Can handpick anybody. I know they're gonna make the right decision. What? What's this? No. Please, no. Hey everyone, Wizzy Wizard here. So let's just start with the fact that Lucasfilm Games has been resurrected. And thank everything that they were. I also just wanted to take a second to So back on topic, I honestly did not like anything that EA really did with Star Wars. Granted, Fallen Order and Squadrons were good games, but they were bare minimum. They had no DLC planned or anything like that. The additions that they added afterwards were really not much at all. I mean, even with Squadrons, they said in the beginning that there was zero plans for any DLC. And that was to capitalize off the fact that they've only made 3 Star Wars games and 2 of them had the same title, which was Battlefront. And with all the Star Wars media out there, between the comics, the movies, the books, there's just no excuse when every other sense of Star Wars media is just pumping out stories like it's nobody's business. But video games, EA was doing absolutely nothing. Obviously, I'm not the only one that thinks that way because there was like parties thrown all over the place, just the fact that EA doesn't have exclusive rights to Star Wars anymore. I mean, when I was a kid, I was used to getting 2 to 3 Star Wars games a year. I mean, we were lucky to get one every 5 years with EA having the exclusivity rights. We all heard the news the other day that Ubisoft Massive, the creators of The Division, will be making an open world Star Wars game, and we all collectively cheered and sighed at the exact same time. But this video is not to bash Ubisoft. This video is basically to tell Ubisoft that they have to put this game in the High Republic. And I'm going to tell you why. So I'm going to start off by saying I don't think it's a good idea to go back to the Skywalker saga, any of that era. Really, the only good story that'd be going on during that time would have to do with like bounty hunters and the Mandalorian, or you'd have to go back to the Clone Wars and we'd have to like have a brand new story. It's just those storylines and eras are kind of fleshed out because most of the media is just focused on those for the last 30 years. I want something completely new, and the High Republic is exactly that. So, I know I did say that this has to be the High Republic as the era for this open world game, but I will say the Old Republic could work pretty well too. Old Republic story was made for video games with Knights of the Old Republic. And yeah, they have a lot of story in the Old Republic MMO, but at the same time, there's a lot of space to where you can branch off with other stories. The characters aren't as defined and it's a lot more open with that aspect of that era. But unfortunately, when Disney swooped in and bought Lucasfilm, they decided to just decanonize the Old Republic for some reason. So they're slowly recanonizing things like Revan, but I truly think they just need to go back and recanonize the entire Old Republic game. To sum it all up, the Old Republic was made for video games, so I just think it'd be really easy for them to adapt an open world Star Wars game to the Old Republic. And I know I mentioned the Old Republic MMO, but since it's gone on Steam, it has become extremely popular. I mean, so popular that Disney decanonized all its stories, but allowed BioWare to still support it because of how much money it was making. So I guess really the only reason I would say I wouldn't want the Old Republic to be what we go to with the open world game is just I don't want them to retell stories from the MMO. I mean, the MMO has a lot going for it, a lot of classes and a bunch of different story, so it would be really easy to somehow overlap with some of those stories. So really quick, I just wanted to give a little bit of a spoiler warning for the High Republic era. I know that's only comics and books right now, so I know a lot of people haven't jumped into that to read it, but there will be a little bit of spoilers that I am talking about. Now to the main point of my story. Why the High Republic needs to be the era of this open world Star Wars game. There is so much going on in this era just from the one book that I've read and the one issue of the comic. And then to add the immense amount of Jedi that are out and about in the High Republic. And then from what I've noticed is that when a Padawan is knighted, they are expected to basically go on adventure. Go out and do their own thing and make their own story. So I just think that'd be translated perfectly into like a create a character. I mean, this is an era that you can make a create a character like our own character canon. Because when I hear open world game, I think I should be able to do whatever I want. And this sounds like that era of Star Wars. So because the Jedi of this era are so powerful, the RPG aspect of this game could make sense in canon. So I just wanted to talk about what I want in this High Republic era Star Wars game. Obviously, like I said before, I'd want to create my own Jedi. And I'd like this to take place before the Great Disaster. And if you haven't read the High Republic books, you can find out what the Great Disaster is in like their preview chapter. That's actually right on the Star Wars website, I'm pretty sure. But for those of you that don't want to go and read it, the Great Disaster was basically a ship traveling through hyperspace. They had to take a quick maneuver through hyperspace and it tore the ship apart. And the ship's debris is just shooting out at planets and random solar systems throughout the hyperspace lane. So in the intro of the game, I would expect us to be a youngling, go through the tutorial stuff, and at the end of the tutorial / intro, you would be granted Padawan status. And that's where the story would start. If you think back to basically any Ubisoft game, we can't expect anything other than what they've already given us. And what they've given us is Assassin's Creed, The Division, and Watch Dogs. So just looking at those three, you know the progression system is going to be somewhat similar. You can imagine as you progress through the story, you're going to work your way up from Padawan to Jedi Knight and then to Master. And then maybe they can even add some tiers in between, you know, Padawan and Jedi Knight and Master. I mean, you got to remember this era is so far removed from any era that we've actually seen in canon. So the next thing I thought about immediately was taken basically from the Old Republic MMO, and that's just the class system. With Jedi, they have the Jedi Shadows, they have Sages. There's a bunch of different types of Jedi who specialize in different things, and that's what the class system would be. That class system would incentivize multiple playthroughs. And I know saying this, a lot of people would be like, why? I also thought about the Fallout settlement system. So hear me out, hear me out. In the High Republic, half the galaxy hasn't been brought into the Republic yet. So one part of this game could be traveling to the different planets and convincing people to join the Republic. And then I thought back to the Clone Wars episodes where they would be on primitive planets and help these civilizations basically succeed in order to bring them into the Republic and not join the Separatists. And I was thinking maybe that could be a mechanic in the game as well, with us as Jedi going from planet to planet and helping these civilizations with some issues that they may have, pirates, raiders, anything like that, and then work their way to bring them into the Republic and help grow the Republic. I do think that with the High Republic, they should bring in the aspect of the Republic being very young, and the Chancellor being completely different than any Chancellor than we've ever seen, because I mean Palpatine's been the only Chancellor. But unfortunately, we've seen Ubisoft Massive's attempt at settlements with the Division 2, and they're pretty bad. So lastly, we need to have multiple planets. I mean, that shouldn't even be something that I have to say, but we need multiple planets. I was thinking a good way to approach it is how the Outer Worlds did. All of them were small open worlds. Some were bigger than others, but at the same time, that could all be based on where you can actually go. I also think about the possibilities of bringing the Starlight beacons into the game to be able to, maybe protect one or whatnot, because a lot of people that haven't read, the Starlight beacons are Jedi temples. They're just ginormous floating space stations, and they're building more than one. They mention that in the actual book. Imagine being able to marshal your own Starlight beacon. So the current marshal of the first Starlight beacon, Avar Kriss, actually seems like somewhat of a superhero. She can connect her mind to all Jedi, almost like a form of battle meditation. Not to mention she perceives the Force very differently. She sees the Force, or hears the Force, as classical music, which is very unique, and I love that aspect of fleshing out the meaning of the Force to each Jedi. And I believe this game could help do that. Another big piece of the High Republic is the new starships that were introduced. They are so badass. Especially the new Jedi starfighters called Vectors. The designs are truly amazing, and hats off to whoever designed those. Overall, I trust now that EA doesn't have the exclusivity rights to Star Wars. This will be one of the best times for any Star Wars fan. Unfortunately, EA has just become such an anti-consumer company that spits in the face of all of their customers that you can't get behind them in any situation. So to see what they did with Battlefront 2, regardless of how they've fixed it since, it's just something that'll always leave a bad taste in your mouth. So the fact that there's going to be other companies that are getting an opportunity to tell their Star Wars story is amazing. I will say though, I am extremely excited for Fallen Order 2, but I trust Respawn as a company more than I trust EA as a publisher. So don't screw it up, Respawn. Seriously. Anyways, that was a pretty brief overview of my thoughts. I probably could have talked for about an hour, but that's extremely unrealistic, and I didn't want to edit that. I'm obviously extremely excited for these upcoming Star Wars projects. Alright, Lucasfilm, let's get back to 3 Star Wars games a year, okay? Thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's completely free, it's super easy, and then if you don't like me, you can always unsub, no questions asked. I love you all, stay safe out there, and Wizzy Wizard out.